There are 5 assumptions regarding the adult learner in the practice of teaching adults. That is defined as andragogy, a theory developed by Malcolm Knowles in 1968. First, a learner must possess a self-awareness which will allow him to direct his learning. Second, the experience of a mature learner is essential to a reservoir to draw on for learning. Third, a person must possess a readiness to learn. Fourth, learning moves from subject-centered learning to problem-centered learning. And lastly, fifth, an individual must be motivated to learn. Many adults fail at the ability to learn and feel incapable of succeeding in a learning situation because they have encountered too many obstacles for which they have no ability to overcome. They have experienced many failures and roadblocks to their learning in which they were not given a successful result or a method to overcome those roadblocks. These negative experiences then lead to a belief that they are unable to learn. Additionally, these obstacles are compounded by the lack of traditional guidance services to assist them when returning to a formal educational setting. Many adult students also exhibit a greater fear of failure and need to be directed or guided to positive learning experiences. Adults need opportunities to recall positive learning experiences that allow them to appear successful in the eyes of others. Adults do not want to fail in the presence of their friends and families. These barriers to success often interfere with the adult student striving to become more self-directed or autonomous. An adult learner must first possess a self-awareness which will allow him to direct his learning. Self-awareness is the conscious knowledge of one's character, feelings, motives, and desires. The adult learner is unlike a child. A child will generally comply to the needs and demands of the authority figure. In contrast, the adult learner needs to have a self-awareness that will guide them through their learning. The adult learner will need to understand their character or personality attributes, their strengths, their weaknesses, their feelings, their motives for learning. As a mentor, guide, or teacher, the best way to aid an adult in developing this self-awareness is to ask your learner what their emotions and feelings are. Aid them in identifying their emotions. Recall that there is not a right or wrong emotion. All emotions are valid. Demonstrate to your learners how you identify your emotions and motives to learning. For example, as an instructor, you may want to verbalize to your learner, "Part of my jobs require that I take classes to keep current in my field. And I don't mind learning something new, but I get frustrated when I have to keep taking the same information and learning the same information. It makes me feel like a child that I can't remember important stuff." Also, help your adult learners to identify their strengths and weaknesses. For example, one adult learner quickly shared that they're great at logical problems and problem solving, but their ability to master language skills such as writing is very difficult. Next, an experience of a mature learner is essential to a reservoir to draw on for learning. It is essential to the successful retention of knowledge for the adult learner to use transference. Transference is simply the ability to transfer knowledge into applicable information, or being able to take that knowledge and apply it in varying situations. The greatest method of encouraging transference is through the connection of new information to previous knowledge or information. This is also called webbing. There are easy ways to encourage this type of connection. Formal methods include brainstorming and the KWL charts. However, with adults, never underestimate the power of simply conversation. As groups get more familiar with each other and people get more familiar with each other, they start to be more open and they'll share more. Some ways to initiate a conversation to create these connections may be to ask, "Have you seen something similar to this? When or how? Have you learned this before? How have you learned before? What does this remind you of? And how can you use this information?" Third, they must possess a readiness to learn. This is true of all learners. All learners, adults and children, must be ready to learn. The greatest point to recall here is the barriers in adult learning. Unlike children, adults come with a variety of barriers that are not seen in a child learner. These barriers include responsibilities, age, and confidence. responsibility of the adult learner are varied and most definitely not found in a child learner. These responsibilities may include financial obligations, family responsibilities, job requirements, and even time restraints. Age is simply the barrier of getting older than the other students in their learning environment, and many adults simply feel this barrier is very intimidating. They feel immobilized by being surrounded by the youth of these younger students. Much of this is related to the neuroplasticity of the older brain and the preconceived feeling that it may be too difficult to learn as one ages. Lastly, looking at confidence. The adult may feel a sense of fear or even a fear of an inadequacy or failure. All of this relates to the adult's readiness to learn, and that the adult learner must address these barriers and come to terms with them. The instructor, mentor, or guide can aid the adult learner in recognizing the barriers and finding ways to overcome them. Learning moves from subject matter to problem-centered learning. So subject-centered learning is simply learning that is surrounded around a subject or a curriculum. Generally, this type of learning is taught by subject matter expert. Also, the learning is siloed. The best example of this type of learning is the high school environment. So a student may start their day with a math class, and then second period they step into English. When they step into English, the English teacher is never going to mention math, and the math teacher is probably never going to mention English. Therefore, the subject has been siloed. Whereas with an adult, they are more interested in problem-centered learning. The problem-centered learning is more application. The student will learn knowledge and information with a purpose of applying it in a problem-solving situation. As an adult learner, it is best to apply a problem-centered approach than to focus on subject matter approach to learning. Learners will acquire a deeper, more concrete learning through the active exploration of real-world applications. However, it is essential to integrate reflection into this process. Do not discount the power of reflection. Also, do not discount the power of learning in groups and teams to encourage integration and discussion and application of new information. Lastly, motivation. An individual must be motivated to learn. Adult learners have several reasons to be motivated to learn. Social, they want to create networking opportunities, they want to socialize, create friendships, they may even want to create some new associations. Community, creating opportunity to serve in one's community. Expectations. This motivation simply means that they're required to have some kind of new knowledge or learn, and usually this requirement is done by an authority figure. It may be a great example to look at maybe a certification for one's career. Personal motivation, this may be advancement, maybe a higher career level, an education, staying current in your profession, or maybe you just want a higher job status. Another personal reason may be simply because someone wants to finish that bachelor's degree that they did not. Stimulation. At times, people simply want a new challenge in their life, and they want to disrupt that routine and escape their boredom. Cognitive interest, curiosity. That's what this is. Learning simply to learn something new. As an instructor addresses each of these 5 assumptions, learning becomes more fertile for the adult learner. And just as soil is prepared for planting in a farm that will increase the quality and the quantity of plants, having this information also is going to increase the ability and the confidence of the learner to create more effective learning environment for that adult learner.